everyone. Did everyone watch Hawkeye episode 3? You can see. Thank you, Sly, for being prepared and having the background ready to go. I don't know if
I'm ready. I have it. I did it.
Marissa and Alexis have it going on their stream too. Make sure if you want to see all four of us talking at once, come over to YouTube. If you go up to producer Liz, you can see us via YouTube.
Okay,
Twitch links in my bio.
Alexis.
I'm working on the thing.
All right.
I believe in you. I believe in you.
We're facing technical difficulties with the other host, but hi, everyone watching. How's everyone doing? I see lots of friends. I see Shadow Warlock is here.
It's making my space buns disappear.
I don't know how to say your at, but I see you in the comments. Hello.
I have it up.
Tonight we're talking all about Spotify Wrapped, and we're talking about Hawkeye season episode 3.
Are you?
I had a very deep cut prediction that came true this episode, so I am so excited to talk. And of course, Sly is joining us for season 4 of Stark Radio to talk Hawkeye.
Okay, I see you. I see you.
If you're not following, make sure you follow. I don't know why we have a match going, but like that's kind of fun.
Yeah, you did it.
I don't know how to turn it off.
I see you, JJB We Watch. Hello. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. Hello, L Parker 2524. If you watched last week, we had some issues with the comments, so we're moderating it a bit heavily this week. But if anything happens to the stream you're watching, come hang out on TikTok. You can always find us there. Alexis, Marissa, Sly, Liz, all on YouTube and Twitch. Hello, everybody watching there. If you see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at the TikTok comments. Hello. Oh, I guess I won the match that Sly started, so that's kind of fun.
I quit, so you're welcome.
Oh, you quit. That's why. Well, I'll take the win regardless.
If you want to know what's going on, please go to the links up here. The links in either of our bios.
So we're going to start the show in just a second.
All of us. There's 4 of us on this live on YouTube and Twitch.
Yes, you can hear all of us live.
If you watch the TikTok, you will see us just like smiling and nodding for like solid lengths of time. So, highly recommend going to the links above. So you can see all of us together. We're talking Hawkeye episode 3. We're talking Spotify Wrapped. We're talking chaos and rants. We're talking.
Let's get the conversation going. We see Slide's got the background all about Echo this week. And I mean, what an episode we had. Besties. Let's just do a very quick 3-word summary of how we're feeling about Hawkeye episode 3. Alexis, maybe start with you.
Oh, God.
We're not putting Alexis forward when I say we're starting with Alexis.
The 3 words?
Yeah, three quick words, How you feeling coming into tonight's live?
Come see, come saw.
Come see, come saw. Bestie.
Surprised.
Okay. Surprised.
And anxious.
And anxious. Why anxious? Because of the chaos that's going to ensue tonight. Because we've planned possibly our most chaotic segment ever that you're definitely going to want to see if you're on YouTube and Twitch watching, and you'll have less of the effect if you're on TikTok. Is that why we're anxious tonight?
Oh, I thought you were just segueing. I was going to let you segue.
No, that was a very long question.
Well, I'm anxious for that. I'm also kind of anxious for where the rest of this series is going. So.
Oh, okay. I respect that. Marissa, how are you feeling tonight?
How am I feeling, or do you want my 3-word reaction to the episode?
That's what I meant.
Okay, my 3-word reaction to the episode is Echo kicks ass.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good 3 words. Sly, I feel like you'd probably agree with that.
I would agree. I would say those aren't my 3 words.
Okay. Not putting words in your mouth. How are we feeling, bestie?
So many tears.
Oh, so many tears. It was an emotional one for sure. I'm feeling emotional, vindicated, and stressed, but only because I'm still trying to upload our little graphics to talk about things tonight, which is very usual of this show. I never have things ready by the time we go live, but my phone is plugged in, so I'm not looking for applause, but I will accept it.
We got 1 down.
I'm plugged in.
What do you mean we have 1 down? Oh, we got one thing done?
One thing we needed.
Oh, the
one plugged her phone in.
The bare minimum for this to happen, folks.
And I have Do Not Disturb on, so that's great.
We'd love
We're
to see
going.
it.
It's
Enjoy my-
chaos today. It's
It is
fine.
chaos today, but you know what? There
Chillin'.
is some sense of balance in the universe. Sly and I finally have our matching Stark Radio hoodies. If you're on the TikTok feed, you see it, you love it. So we're very pumped about that. You can cop your merch through producerlizmerch.myshopify.com. Blink2622, loving the buns, Alexis. I mean, that's a little bit of balance in the universe. We have
Yes.
Marissa looking absolutely fabulous. The curled hair, all done did. I love it. And you know what else I love?
Oh.
Is seeing what songs and artists were at the top of our list this year in our
Just got it.
Spotify Wraps. Now, I will be truthful here. I cannot get the images to upload of our top artists of the year, but I'm sure we can all speak to who was at the top of our list and kind of expose ourselves. And I know I've heard some of what has been on others' playlists, but perhaps because I'm feeling generous, I'll expose my top artist first. I think it's really no surprise here that it was Taylor Swift. There is one trend, though, with my Spotify Wrap that I think is worth calling out if we're going to really expose ourselves tonight. Every year, there's like one sad song written by a man that just takes over my playlist and takes over my Spotify Wrapped. Last year, it was Lewis Capaldi, Before You Go, and it was two different versions of the song that completely hijacked my top 5, and it was very embarrassing, but I love Lewis Capaldi. And this year, it was Luke Hemmings' Place in Me that absolutely destroyed any rankings of a Taylor Swift song being my number 1. So that's me, and a lot of Harry Styles along the way as well. But I'm going to go straight to Marissa because I know you had a very chaotic Wrapped. Who is at the top of your playlist this year?
I'm so proud. No, okay. You call it chaotic. I'm so proud of my Spotify Wrapped this year. It's so much better than last year. Last year, 4 out of my 5 top songs were from Beetlejuice the musical.
Okay, fair.
The fifth one was from the guy who didn't like musicals, which is a Star Kids show. Like, last year was chaos. This year is like carefully organized, like brand appropriate songs.
That's fair. That's fair.
My top artist is Taylor Swift. Thank you very much. My top 3 songs are from Sour by Olivia Rodrigo.
As it should be. Yeah.
And there are 2 men on my top 5 artists.
The audacity.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
so
Taylor
sorry.
Swift, Bo Burnham, Olivia Rodrigo, Dodie, and then Jonathan Groff.
Hey, let's like really dig into this for a second. How did Jonathan Groff work his way into your top 5?
There was like a full month where I listened to nothing but the 36 Questions album. Sly, do you know this show?
I
feel like
not
you
yet
would have been the one
listened,
that knew it.
but I know
Oh my
I know the
God.
show, but I haven't yet listened.
It's so good.
Apparently, since it cracked your Spotify Wrapped, I would hope
It's just
good.
it's a musical playlist. It's 3 hours long. It's just Jonathan Groff and I don't remember the girl's name, Jessie something. It's just the 2 of them. And I literally listened to nothing else
Wow.
for like a full month. And also I love Jonathan Groff's songs in Frozen too. I think that probably contributed to it. But
I do think that Sly raised a very interesting point, which is that it was just Jonathan Groff. It wasn't Jonathan Groff et al. It wasn't Jonathan Groff and cast up. It was just him.
It wasn't Jonathan
himself
Groff
did
at
it.
all. That is my favorite.
yeah,
It was not an academic sighting of Jonathan Groff. It was just him.
Jonathan Groff at all.
I don't think I should have to explain
Groff.
this.
No one's asking you to.
2021.
I'm commending you. And I love Jonathan Groff's voice. I don't blame you at all. It's just, I think it's honestly a feat.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you for it.
Thank you. I'm proud of it too.
I think
wish
it's also worth letting everybody know Marissa did rank higher than me in the top percentage of Taylor Swift listeners on Spotify this year.
I'm very proud of that.
Alexis in shock.
I'm very proud of that. I one of us has a Stan account, one of us doesn't. One of us has a higher percentage, one of us doesn't.
I feel very called out right
One
now
of
by
us has been
Marissa.
a lifelong Swiftie. One of us hasn't.
But I think it's Liz's fault. I think it's Bucky Barnes' and
It
Mirrorball's fault because I
Yeah.
listen to that playlist every single day.
Great playlist.
It's a great playlist. If you want to go to my link tree, the playlist is there. You can find it right away. Bucky Barnes is a Mirrorball. High recommendation.
Also on Apple Music.
Yes!
Oh yeah, if you go to Sly, you
Okay,
can
good.
find
I'll
it
go
on
find
their
that one.
profile on Apple Music.
You know what
Done.
the best part about that playlist is? I made both that playlist and the Look at the Godforsaken Mess You Left Peter Parker in playlist literally at like midnight or some like crazy hour of the night, like on a whim after a brief comment after a live with Alexis. Just
Amazing.
Complete, and now it's like taken over the Spotify raps of my close friends.
It changed my life. I don't remember what we were talking about, but like, oh, I think maybe we were planning the Taylor Swift Rogers the Musical episode.
Yes,
And Liz
we
was
were.
like, do you not know about my Bucky Barnes Taylor Swift playlist? And sent the link, and I truly have not stopped listening to it.
And I felt so guilty for making her make it too, because I think I said something like, "Oh, you need to do a playlist," and it was like, "Why did I say that?" Like, here's
But it
more
was
work on
worth
your
it. It was
playlist. Here you
worth
go.
it. It was worth it. So honestly, keep demanding playlists of me so that we can continue pulling these results. I love
I
it.
think it's great.
JJ saying, I'm proud to say 0.5% for Taylor. You joined Marissa in that high feat. I want to say thank you for the gifts on TikTok Live. You can come watch the full show on YouTube and Twitch where you can see Marissa and Alexis too. Also some agreement from JJ that 36 questions is such a good show.
It's so good. I did not expect it to end the way it did. I was very upset.
But no spoilers. No spoilers for those of us that haven't.
It's 3 acts. It's like 3-hour-long podcasts. And I was so upset by the end that I had to just go back and like only listen to the first act. I like couldn't acknowledge the second 2 acts. It's too much. I highly recommend it. It's great.
Amazing.
Jonathan Groff. Yes, Jesse Shelton. JJB watch. Jesse Shelton is the girl in 36 questions. Jonathan Groff is straight, but he has 2 gay moms. So, you know,
Good for
it
him.
balances out the rep in the show. It's great. There's a duck. There's a duck that is heavily involved as a character. Yes.
I also want to say a quick hello to Shelby, who's watching on YouTube. I missed your comment earlier, but hello, and thank you for tuning in with us tonight. And with that, let's slide over to Slide. You like that segue? Slide to Sly. Has it been used too frequently in your life?
No, it's not been used yet. So you're the first.
Yes, I'll take
Liz has got great puns tonight. There's
I've
some
been
puns
working on
coming
the
up
Tennessee
later.
language.
They're great.
Thank you.
We'll see
Bestie.
that
I've really
later.
been working on the show, working on the puns. But Sly, what was at the top of your Wrapped this year?
Okay, so I don't use Spotify, and I think that needs to be put out there first. So the top songs, I don't know any of them. But my number one artist is John Passiano. I don't know how to say that.
Pop off.
But if you don't know who that is, I didn't either. But it was the composer for Spider-Man Miles Morales, the video game.
Oh,
Very
brilliant.
good. Very good. I don't know why I listened to that on Spotify, but I guess I did.
there's a playlist.
So good for that.
Yeah, there's a playlist that I follow that's Disney's scores to study to, and the Miles Morales score is on it. It's very good.
It's great.
Alexis doesn't
period.
know what
Period.
Spotify
I don't know the rest of the songs on that list, so
Well, then we'll leave it there. I love it. And Alexis, what was at the top of your Wrapped this year? I think it's a different kind of expose.
Alexis doesn't use Spotify. I thought I had an account and tried 8 email addresses and none came up. So
If you had to make
I
a
love
guess,
that.
what have you been listening to this year?
Lots of Taylor Swift,
Mhm.
lots of Olivia Rodrigo. I had a Casey Musgraves phase where I listened to Space Cowboy for like 3 months, and that was like the only thing I listened to because I was watching Roswell, New Mexico. I still jammed to Hamilton a lot this year. I know, but I did.
And we will not get into what's happening on Hamilton
Interesting
TikTok right
news.
now.
Oh my
That's
God.
another show.
I scream sing First Burn at least once a week still.
On brand.
So
Nice.
that would probably be up there.
Like,
Yeah.
First Burn is on a different level than Hamilton. It's like
Right.
Hamilton, First Burn.
First Burn. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So.
I can tell you what I've been listening to too, but
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like trying to think. It's my playlist that's just called Buck, and it's also Bucky Barnes. But I
Yes.
think I need to make a new one also called Buck for Buck from 911 because I get so confused between both of those.
I love.
But that's a very different like time for music
Mhm.
compared to Liz. So it's like 40s and 70s Russian music and a
Look
Look at
little bit
Alexis'
of
face.
Taylor
Alexis
Swift.
needs that in her life immediately.
It's great. And then Tick Tick Boom
Yes.
has been all of my life.
yes.
And then
JJ's agreeing with you about
Yes,
this 911.
Follow Sly on Twitter. This is all they're talking about.
that's everything I'm talking about on Twitter right now. It's fine. It's fine. We're gonna ignore that.
Some agreement from
and-
Danny as well about the Spider-Verse score.
That's a great score. But I was specifically talking about the video game from PS5, which is
Iconic.
amazing music.
Iconic.
And then my third, it's probably clipping. I don't know if you guys know clipping.
No.
It's
David Diggs. Great.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
Him and
Donald
two
Trump
other
is white.
people.
Yeah.
But I listen
And
to
with
it
that,
a lot.
and with that. Let's transition before we go
That's
too deep down the rabbit hole.
Just
And
like
we're really trying to not attract this week because last week we had some issues in the comments, so we're going to keep talking about Hawkeye. I have decided, I made an executive decision this week when we were planning the show because in the group chat we always talk about like what was standing out to us from the episode that we want to talk about, and every single one of us in the chat was like, I have a rant. So I was like, okay, let's make it a bit more fun and let's play the 1 minute rant game with a twist. So if you don't know what the 1 minute rant game is, I'm happy to tell you. We have a stopwatch on the screen. And typically the way this game works is that you have to deliver your rant within 1 minute. But because I love chaos and we live for chaos on the show, we're going to make things a bit more interesting. We are each going to have 2 minutes to deliver the rant of our choice about this week's episode of Hawkeye. The twist is every 30 seconds, the speaker is going to change. So I'm going to start, and at the 30-second mark, you can see the order on your screen right now. Alexis will go next. When 30 seconds is up, it's going to move to Sly. When 30 seconds is up, it's going to move to Marissa, and we're going to keep going back and forth until we've hit the 8-minute mark. 8 minutes might seem like a long time. I promise you it is not, and I'm going to be ruthless as we play this game. So let me see if I can make this happen.
I just got like really stressed. I like wrote
You
my
should.
rant.
You should
I
feel
wrote my
stressed.
rant out in my head, and then we got here, and I'm like, I don't remember anything I wanted to say.
I have
all
a
good.
question. Alexis
Yes.
has a question. Okay, so just to clarify, so I don't like mess this up,
Mhm.
I am doing my rant. I am not continuing your rant for my 30 seconds.
No.
right?
You have to
I'm doing
start
my
your rant at the 30-second mark, and then you're
It's
going to
gonna
get cut
be
off.
in like 4 segments. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I just
I'm
want to
good
make
now.
sure that my screen thing is going to work. So it's going to look like this. And then when it's someone else's turn to speak, I need to change it to be, how do I change the speaker? Hold on. Let me see if I can figure this out. This is figuring it out on the fly. Yes. Okay.
Ooh.
This is how you'll know it's your turn to start. It's all gonna change. It's all gonna change, bestie. So I have a timer up. Are we ready to start the game?
No, but we're going to anyway.
I'm never gonna be ready.
The first rule of the game also is that when you start your rant, the first thing you need to say is what the rant is about, just so that everyone is like on the same page of like what the F you're talking about. And with that, let's see how it goes. I'm gonna start, then Alexis, then Sly, then Marissa. Everyone take a big deep breath.
Oh God.
And with that, I'm going to begin my rant. So I would like to say that I feel vindicated this week because I made a lot of predictions in the after parties of the What If series about who is going to be cast in a version of Rogers the Musical that was so chaotic you would not even believe. And that is what my rant is about tonight. I had the craziest, most out-of-the-box predictions. Thank you, Sly. I had the most crazy out-of-the-box predictions, and one finally came true this episode. We had an inflatable man in Hawkeye.
I did scream about the inflatable man.
And with that, Alexis, it's your turn to start. Go, go, go.
Okay, so okay, my rant this week is about the fact that I would like the Marvel intern to just go to any reputable martial arts program anywhere, just like one time, would walk in the door, because that is the strangest ass karate class I have ever seen in my life. Like, I don't know where these people are like coming from and thinking that like yellow belts are just gonna throw hands Conor McGregor style in the middle of class. Like, that's
okay. Sly, it's your turn to.
Okay, so open captions, closed captions, and subtitles are all very different things, and we need to know the difference, people, okay? Starting off, subtitles are only ever if the language being spoken is different than the language being written. That's it. That's the only time you're going to use that term. Open captions and closed captions are when the language matches the language being spoken, okay? Subtitles do not have.
Marissa, it's your turn to go. Bestie.
Oh my God.
go, Marissa, go.
If I wear a costume, my wife will divorce me. I don't think that's true. Is your masculinity that fragile that it's tied to tight? Your wife didn't divorce you after she found out you went on a literal spree for years while she was dust. I don't think tights would have been the line. We'll get to Steve.
Back to me and the inflatable. So I really think everyone owes me an apology because this was the highlight of Hawkeye episode 3. Okay, I was right about this. Everyone said, we're not going to get an inflatable man. Also, do you remember when we couldn't remember what that thing was called for the longest time during that live? The producers from Marvel that watched our live must have been peeing themselves knowing that we were correct about one casting choice. It was not a real person. It was an inflatable. Alexis, your turn.
Okay, so here's my thing. In the episode, we saw a very distinct fight style from Echo, not from Kate, but from Echo, right? Which was this really cool, like predominantly Ishinru karate. I will fight you. That's what it was. With like a little bit of like MMA in there, but look, just a little tiny kick. Like you don't. People are like, it's MMA. It's not MMA. You don't do a butterfly kick in MMA. Like, sue me. Anyway, the moral of the story is that like karate classes don't run the way that they.
Subtitles do not have any audio information that it's happening in the sound design that gives you any sort of information, okay? Subtitles, not very helpful to me, okay? So if you're gonna have subtitles on something and deaf people are going to be there, you also need captions, and that's a whole nother rant. But captions, there's two kinds of captions. There's open captions and closed captions. They're very different. Closed captions are burnt into the screen. You can't turn them off. They're just there.
Marissa, go for it.
Okay, we need to talk about Steve Rogers in connection to tight. So, if you're going to say that your wife is going to divorce you if you wear a costume, that's just simply not true. Steve Rogers is like the epitome of like masculinity and strength, and like he's literally like the ideal man, and he wears tights, and he's fine. He gets a wife. He goes back in time to get a wife. What is wrong with wearing a costume other than like you're a ghost?
So I'd like to continue my point about the inflatable man. And if I got this right, then that really worries me for the rest of the series. Are we going to get Ben Platt? That was a prediction I made multiple times. Are we going to get Party City Thor? That's a prediction I made multiple times. At this point, I am most disappointed that I did not dreamcast Timothée Chalamet, because if we can get Inflatable Man, why can't we have Timothy? And with that, I will pass it to Alexis to continue her rant.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you're in a karate class and you're going to spar, you wear full pads if you were under the age of 18. So I don't know what these little, like, bitch-ass children are doing, standing there in their gi, like, just ready to throw down. And then all she does is push him out of the way, which is, like, really cool because she, like, read the moment or whatever. But that doesn't get you a point. Like, unless you make contact with, like, his gut or his noggin, you're not getting any points for just playground shoving that ass, like, out of the way. I just don't.
Continue.
So closed captions are what you can choose to have on the screen. You can turn them on, you can turn them off, okay? And they're in the language that's being spoken, and they have all the audio information. Okay, what drives me crazy is when there are open captions only for the person speaking in ASL and not for the rest of the entire fucking show, okay? Just give me all or nothing. I don't want the hearies knowing what's going on.
And Marissa.
Okay. Furthermore, all my love to Linda Cardellini, she has some busted outfits in this show. That khaki skirt is disgusting. It's disgusting. I'm sorry. I don't think she would care about it. Oh my god! I don't think she would care.
How
about
do you
the
talk like you're running out of time?
I can't. I'm so upset.
So back to the inflatable man. In conclusion, since this is my final 30-second window, I would like to say, once again, everyone owes me an apology. Two, I'm sad that we did not cast a Santa-specific inflatable, but I would like to see the continued casting of inflatable beings in the MCU. I think there's a real opportunity for this in any Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And Marvel, please feel free to call me, because I know that you took this idea from me, and I will be expecting royalties for the use of inflatables. And rant. Alexis, final thoughts.
So I will just say that the presentation of actual karate classes is really important, because no child is going to no parent is going to enroll their child if they think they're just going to throw hands at like the yellow belt level. So I just need the Marvel intern to go to like just one. Like, I don't even care like really where it is. Just like set up a trial class, show up, like watch the way it goes, take some notes, and like utilize them in some
Sly, final thoughts.
If you get offended by words on a screen, I'm sorry, but I don't care. I really don't care. And that's just it. If you're going to complain about watching movies in other languages, sucks for you. I have to watch movies with words on it every single time, because there are like 2 movies that are made entirely in my language, and that's about it. So suck it up, get over yourself, and every single theater should be open captioned 100% of the time. Fight me.
Period. Marissa, close the show.
Okay, I just want to say, like, if your masculinity, your relationship to your wife is tied to your clothing, what does that mean? If truly, like, it's just disgusting to me that he's like, I can't wear a costume, my wife will leave me. You wore a costume for 5 years while you were out murking people, and she didn't leave you for that. What do the tights have to do with it?
And that's 8 minutes. We have officially done it. Congratulations all around for a wonderful, I don't know what we're going to call that segment, but I think we should do it again. It seems like everyone's agreeing that was fun, and we should perhaps think of it in the future. JJ saying, this chaos is what I live for.
I was really not prepared for that.
Well, now you'll be prepared for next week, who I'm sure will have more rants about episodes moving forward. Big breath, everyone. Any final thoughts anyone would like to give to their rant that they did not have time to say? I will be generous this evening.
I think we're good.
Okay. So we have a lot that we do want to talk about and gives like some serious conversation too, besides our fun rants of the week, including revisiting on a point. I want to revisit a point that Sly you made last week, which is that if you're going to make a joke about being deaf, at least make it a good joke. And I feel like Marvel really heard you and made a lot of referencing this episode that was quite interesting. I'd like to first start with the one, I have very few graphics from the episode this week. And one of the ones that I did manage to get was the text message that Kate said, good thing they call you Hawkeye and not Hawk Ear. How would you rate that on a scale of 1 to 10?
Perfect. That's a 10 out of 10. That's a quality deaf joke. That's what I'm looking for.
This is now going to have to be a weekly segment.
Does it lose points being delivered by a hearing person? Or okay. I don't know.
Because she texted it.
Okay.
That was the execution, the joke, the presentation, everything. 10 out of 10. That was hilarious. I love deaf jokes. I said that last week, right?
You did.
Love them. And it's even funnier if a hearing person makes a good deaf joke. Because it's just an added bonus. Like, if you're a hearing person and you make a good deaf joke, I will love you forever.
Noted. We'll have to work on that. We'll have to workshop something.
We're all like,
for...
notes?
So there were other jokes made this week. I don't have screenshots of all of them, but was there anything else that stood out to you this week in terms of strictly about the humor of this episode?
Oh, they haven't learned ASL in 24 hours. That was great.
Oh, yes.
In this scene when they're having the confrontation. Yeah, that was good. And I'm really interested to see more of that character and like his relationship with Echo, like moving forward in the show and how they like communicate between them, knowing that nobody else communicates in it. Marissa, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, Kate had a line that I thought was really funny that you just made me remember, where she was like, that hot guy who knew ASL. I was like, that's exactly who he is.
Exactly who
I think it was that hot tracksuit guy who knew
Yes,
ASL.
yes, that was it. Yeah.
I will say that when I was watching with my partner, he made a comment saying like that guy could be like Jon Snow's brother. Which made me then like I missed about like 30 seconds of the show because my mind went to like Game of Thrones multiverse meets like MCU multiverse meets like Jon Snow being in the tracksuit mafia meets like
So
tracksuit
that's
mafia
the guy
being like
from
one of the houses.
Les
Like
Mis.
That's
the guy from Les Mis.
yes.
I was like,
He was such a baby in that movie. I loved him in that movie, but he was such a baby. Such a baby.
but he's great in this.
He did great,
His sign
honestly.
is good. I was impressed.
And he's not American.
No,
He's
not.
Irish. His accent is great.
Does he
did
speak
great.
with an American accent?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
is
it's
it good?
really good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, I looked him up after the episode. I was like, I feel like he's not American because like none of the Les Mis cast was American. And it's like, yeah, he's Irish. And I was like, that's a really good accent. This is my thing, guys. I can pick out accents and wigs disturbingly
Can we
well.
talk about the wig?
Let's talk about Wiggate. Wiggate. Let's do it, Marissa. It's all you.
I've been trying to figure this out for hours. I don't understand. For anyone that could not pick up on it during this episode, Haley Steinfeld is wearing a wig in the taxi. Is it a taxi? When they're in the back seat of the car? I think they're in a taxi.
So.
She's wearing a wig in that scene, and they did reshoots in August, which like I would assume that is part of it. That's why she's wearing a wig in that one scene, because she's not normally wearing a wig. It's just Haley Steinfeld's hair. And then I was like, well, maybe it's because she was shooting Dickinson, and I like looked up the production dates for Dickinson, but that wrapped in July. And like I've been watching this season of Dickinson, and her hair is exactly the same in Dickinson as it is in Hawkeye. Like she even has the like bang part. Like I don't understand why she's wearing a wig, but she is, and it's very obvious. And I would love if anyone, hair and makeup, Haley, DM me on Instagram. Please tell
We
me
need
why she's
answers,
wearing a wig.
Marvel.
Let us
We need
know.
answers. JJ chiming in saying a solid acting performance all around, Haley being a standout. I will say I do think Haley is one of the best actresses of our generation, and I think she is really doing a great performance of what they're giving her to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like some key language around like the Kate Bishop that we're seeing and like how they are writing this character to be. I think she's like doing it justice. However, the real conversation is this the best representation of Kate Bishop? And I think that is an interesting conversation that we should open the floor for. And I see Alexis's face. And I want to immediately transition to you because I know you have a lot of thoughts around this.
Yes. So this episode was another episode where we took Clint moments from the comics and we gave them to Kate, right? So in the comics, for people that don't know, in the Fraction run, in the comic that this one is kind of loosely based on the issue, Kate does drive the car and Clint does shoot the arrows, right? So like that setup, she ends up getting in the driver's seat of the car and he's the one shooting. We gave that to Kate. And I think it was a really great moment to see her archery. However, this was also an episode that reiterated to us that Kate is supposed to be a child. And I literally wrote in my notes, how is someone supposed to know everything at 18 and nothing at 22? Because we established that she's like 22-ish years old, but like she apparently doesn't know how. I mean, she has a job, but she can't use money if she doesn't have a credit card. And like she, Clint is there kind of like picking up after her messes. They have this like fight in a literal like toy store and she's sitting there like, how did you get out of your tape cuffs? I can't get out of my tape cuffs. It's just, I think the other thing that bothered me this week was that I saw a lot of male creators talking about how great the representation was for women, which is not really something you have the right to talk about, right? So I think this show is kind of positioning itself in this really, I don't know, slippery place where it's kind of masquerading as really positive representation, but it's not exactly hitting that mark all the time, right? The arrow is a little bit off center. And I think that's one of the things that worries me about using Kate in the MCU going forward, is if they're kind of giving her this wishy-washy personality now, right? Like sometimes she's competent, but sometimes she's not. If that continues, then we just have another female MCU character that's like only allowed to be competent when men aren't in the room. And I'm not a fan of that. Insane.
It
I'm
is
stealing that line that it's masquerading like positive representation
Ooh.
because I 100% agree for the deaf representation here. It's exactly the same.
Yeah. Do you want to take a minute and like spin off of that?
Can I just say my one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to add to what Alexis was saying, that it's weird what she knows and what she doesn't know.
Yes.
Like
yes.
She
It
can
doesn't
hack
map a
into,
train of learning.
No, like she can hack into the security system and whatever, but she can't figure out that her mom is trying to kick her out of the security system while she's in the house. Like at the same time, she knows how to get to the weird audiologist that we have to talk about later, but like doesn't know how to pay cash at a diner. Like it's and she like kicks ass and can't get out of duct tape. Yeah. Sorry, please, Sly, go
Very
off.
well said.
The learning, like, it's not linear here. I don't know what she's like skilled at and what she's not. Like, it's anyways, back to my first point. This would be better representation for Kate if she had more bi boyfriends. That's what she needs here. Because she has so many. All of them. Her ex who's like has a crush on her current boyfriend. Like, I love that. That's amazing. I need more of her bi boyfriends. That's what I want for her.
Is this a comics thing?
It's the Parks and Rec scene where it's like, this is my boyfriend Derek and this is his boyfriend whatever.
Yes.
It's
I
like,
saw a video this week of people saying like, well, Kate's clearly bi because she's wearing purple. And I'm like, Clint Barton's going to wear purple. Are we going to have that same conversation? Because
Because Kate
we just need
only
one. We
dates
just need one, Alexis.
bi
JJ says
boys.
everything needs more bi boyfriends, and I agree.
Anyways, go read West Coast Avengers because it's literally perfect. What was my next rant?
I think we were getting close to talking about the representation of deafness in episode 3. Which I say that as a singular thought, knowing it's not a singular thought to talk about. It's like a general theme of which many things are true within it.
Let's start with the language. Alexis, do you want to take this away?
okay, so my language rant is actually very like niche, right? So the setup for this is, I think everybody knows, but for those of you who don't know, I ran a stopgap preschool classroom at a hearing school after I had worked at a deaf school, right? And so predominantly my job was to teach kids how to communicate. But for kids, that communication is decided by their parents, right? Which is really where baby sign came from, was parents deciding how they wanted their kids to be able to communicate. And what is really interesting about baby sign or family sign is that it focuses in like 3 aspects, right? We have manners words, so like please and thank you and sorry and you're welcome, right? Then we have food words because apparently we revolve around food. I don't know. And that's where you also get like more and want, but like milk and cookie. And then we have
That
family
reminds me of a
members.
different.
So we have like dad and mom and sister and brother, right? And those are kind of like personally aggrandizing signs because that's usually like mom being like, I want baby to say mommy, right? But it's the point is that it's language about like expressing a want. It's not a language that is actually expressive language, right? So what was interesting to me in this episode is that we get Clint trying to establish that he does not have much sign language proficiency, does not have much proficiency by saying like, I want more cookie, please, which was so startling to me because
sign more right, and
he does like the weird spaghetti thing, right? But like I was like, is this spaghetti? Like what is anyway, sorry. We're good. But it stuck out to me because to me that is very much like Laura Barton being like, my husband is now hard of hearing. We're going to Google family sign. We've got this, right? And so the family learns a handful of sign to like show him that they care, but also to put him in this position of more active parenting. So I want more cookie, please, allows Nate to tell dad he wants more and dad to do it, right? That's why it's important to Clint's character. Whereas Echo's family focused on expression of language, right? Like, what does the sky sound like? What sound does a rainbow make? That one's from the comic. I don't know if that was in the episode, but what sound does rainbow make?
Dragon and sky.
And sky. So it's very much like express yourself to me, like tell me like what you want to know, right? And so it's interesting in an episode that was about communication, right? That like the through line of this episode seemed to be communication good, not communicating bad, and really communicating with hearing people good, not communicating bad, right? But the actual message is more that like the way that characters communicate define who they are. And this is something that Marvel did, spoilers for the Eternals, but did with the Eternals as well, right? Where characters in the Eternals signed the parts of the sentence that were important to them because that was them making an effort to communicate with Makari in her own language. So like there's a line by Drug where he says, drives me bonkers. My besties have heard me rant about this line for a solid week and a half. But he says, my beautiful, beautiful Makari, did you miss me? The only part of that sentence he signs is, did you miss me? Because that is the part of the sentence that's important to him, not to her, right? The moral of the story being that Laura wanted Clint to be an active parent and that he's not fully showing up in any portion of his life. He's not fully showing up at home or in the deaf community or in the hearing community or as an Avenger.
Or in the original 6.
Or anywhere.
Or in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Like, so that is End Liz talk. I'm done.
Alexis
We call TED
called her-
Talks Liz Talks
Yeah,
because
sorry.
Liz has given a TED Talk.
It's
Just for those unfamiliar
It's
with the
great. Go
concept
watch
of a
it.
Liz Talk.
It's really good. Her actual name's Elizabeth. Don't let it surprise you.
It is implied, but like the link's
Alexis
in my
was
link tree if
shocked.
anyone's looking for it. But we don't have to talk about my Liz talk right now. But that's literally my favorite thing that y'all have ever come up with. Let's keep the conversation on why Clint Barton deserves our rage. I'll direct it back to Sly to go to our next rant point. Also, congratulations on your successful Liz talk, Alexis. I think you delivered it beautifully.
Yeah, let's talk about that. It's so funny to me. And I mean that actually, that it's a little bit funny, but that we see like how involved that Clint is with his hearing loss, right? That's a big focus of his thought process. But all of it is from a medical perspective. So when we're talking about disability, there's 3 models, is that right?
Oh,
Three-
yeah, we had this
haven't
in our
taken
notes, didn't we?
Do we?
Taking a
No,
disability
no,
studies
sorry,
class
we
for
didn't
a long
have
time.
it for something different.
So the models of disability, there is social, there is medical, and there is another one. I don't know. It's not important to my life. But when we're talking about medical model of disability, that we're talking about how you interact with your disabilities in like professional level. Does that make sense? I don't. Anyways, it's like focusing on technology and how to look like an able-bodied person, basically. The social model is talking about how you're only disabled if your surroundings do not match your needs. So it's a big topic with the deaf community because a lot of deaf people are like, I'm not disabled. It's just that the environment does not fit my access needs. And I'm like, hey, that's the social model of disability. You're disabled. Accept that and move on. But you see here, he's so focused on the medical model here. He's so reliant on technology. He's so focused on only using his hearing aid, and his sign is only for his kids, like we discussed earlier. Cookie, please, love you. And an attempt at signing more, which he does not.
It's not hard.
Anyways, so we see that contrasting with beautiful, amazing representation of how very few families actually pick up sign for their kids. And a great example of one family, and we see Echo, her dad is signing for her and discussing, trying to get into a deaf school and that story, right? And she is so strong and proud in her deaf identity. And that is awesome. I understand the want to show a character with hearing loss who says, I'm not deaf. I'm hard of hearing. I'm not deaf. I'm not involved in the community. I'm not involved in the language. That's not for me, right? I understand wanting that. How you do that has to be very careful because that's how hearing people view the deaf community, right? And that representation here is all that hearing people are going to know. And that's what really is just irritating me about the portrayal is there are many people like that. There are many late deaf people who don't pick up sign, who don't involve themselves in the community, who don't who focus on using a cochlear or a hearing aid or whatever, and that's how they interact with the world. That is true, but you're showing those other late deaf people, the families of late deaf people, everybody around late deaf people, that that's the only way. And it's not, because I had to experience that progression, learning that it's okay to call myself deaf, learning that I don't have to identify as hard of hearing just because I have hearing, just because I'm a late deaf, that I can be involved in the community. I can be a full deaf person. I am deaf enough. That is what I would love to see represented. And we're not going to get that. And I understand that, but it's just so frustrating because we have so many examples already of late deaf people who just don't care, aren't involved in the community. We don't need more. We have enough of that. Like I wish we could see that.
And it's interesting to hear your take on that and think about how it seemed like this episode tried to have some nuance where Echo's like, oh, you rely a lot on like your tech. I think she says like your technology, and she calls
You depend
it that,
too much on technology. Yeah.
right? And then they never really went past that point, because then he's like, he almost as if to say, I do, and he goes and he fixes it at like, as mentioned earlier, like this very sketchy looking.
So weird.
Yeah.
Who is that audiologist? Who are they? Where are they? Why is it so weird?
Why are they?
Why
Yeah.
are they?
All 5 of the W's and how.
And how does she know them? That confused. I thought like I had missed something.
Yeah, I don't.
It felt like a decision made in post where they're like, yeah, you know what? Like, we already showed that it broke, so like we gotta show it getting fixed, but then like let's just cut the rest of this.
I also like I could be wrong, but I feel like there's been an inconsistency to how much of his hearing he's lost. Like that was interesting
How
to
much
me.
they're showing with like the sound?
Yeah, like it's like
Huh.
sometimes I feel like he can
don't know.
hear
I can't
more. Sorry. Sometimes I feel like he can. You keep cracking me up with that. Like Liz the other day said something, and you were like, "Well, I don't know," and I'm like, "God." Anyway, you make me laugh. But like I don't know. I feel like the first 2 episodes, like we had an understanding that even when the hearing aid was off, that he could hear more than he could in this episode. I don't know. I thought there was like a weird inconsistency to the sound
I
design
agree
there.
with that, and I think if there was a moment that really made me confused, and I think we maybe were thinking of the same moment, it's when Kate and Clint are on those like rides in the Tracksuit Mafia place, and he's like, I think he was trying to say he couldn't hear her because of the side of him that she was sat on, which was kind of consistent with the sidewalk conversation from episode 2, where he was like, no, I have to stand on the outside because I can't hear you. But then
I have a comment about that.
Yeah, make a comment about that.
So,
Pop off.
I use 1 hearing aid. That's it. Some people have 2. I use 1. I use it in my worst ear. That means my better ear is the other one. So if somebody's talking to me, I don't want them on the side with my hearing aid. It doesn't work. It's just there to help. Like I want them on the other ear. But when they're walking on like the sidewalk, he wants her on that side with the hearing aid. Why?
Well, and to me, I think what got me is that it seemed like if you were on this side, I can hear you. Like if you were on one side, I can hear you, right? But he can't hear any of the phone conversation, regardless of where the phone is. And so I was like, wait, I thought that you could like hear on one side, but now we can't. I don't know. It just seemed weird.
I
I
would
will
also
say I can't talk on the phone. Doesn't matter. Good
maybe
ear,
it's
bad ear. I can't talk on the phone. So
I'm gonna ask a question, and this is an open question to be answered. But I also feel like it didn't really make sense to me how, like when before his hearing aid smashed, and it was working, and he's on the opposite side of Kate, and he's trying to tell Kate he can't hear her. I'm like, how your hearing aid's working? Like, how you can't hear her at all? And to what you said about like, well, shouldn't that be like his better ear that's on her side? Maybe I have to rewatch the episode to see. But in that moment, I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me if you turned your head and you look straight on at her, which you can because your neck's not restrained, you still can't like figure out what she's saying to you. Like, I don't know.
I also want to add a point about adaptive technology. Like, they make Maya the villain by smashing his hearing aid, by saying, like, they make adaptive technology good, deaf community bad. And like they like reinforce this on the phone, like feel so
like
bad
she smashed his hearing aid. Now he can't talk to his kids.
Yes, so bad for Clint. He can't hear his kids because his only personality trait is his kids.
I'm laughing because that was what you saw as a hearing person. I saw, yes, like good for her, like smash that hearing aid.
That's how I felt.
Mean it. Teach him how to interact with the world as a deaf person. Yes. And so that was funny to me.
No, I agree with you, Sly. That is how I saw it, but I don't think that's how the narrative intended it for hearing people.
Interesting.
Because I do think you're right. I mean, there is a way that you can view the episode and say, this is they're trying to positively represent the deaf community and like the richness of the language of ASL and say that is a positive. But then at the same time, they make the villain the person that is representative of that community and like is I don't know. I think it's like
I also think, if I can just continue on your point here, Maya is capable of doing so many cool, harmful things. Okay, she is a fighter. She's
so cool.
His ass,
She's
like
so hot.
And that was like the death blow. It's like, take it away. Continue.
No, I just wanted to say I'm gay. She's hot.
I love this because Sly is also the person that I use to tell me when I'm supposed to think people are hot. Like, I never know. And so I'm always like, Sly, were these two in a relationship? Like, was there coding I missed there? Like, is this person hot? So the fact that your reaction was just like, she's hot.
I wrote down so few notes for today. And one of them was, wow, she's hot.
And let's just like take a moment and applaud the actress who I could not believe watching this episode that this is her first acting gig. I thought she was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
awesome.
This is your first gig. You're playing a major comic character and you're able to bring this level of nuance. Like, to me, it felt a little magical, honestly. We've seen worse performances. Cough, cough, Chris Pratt.
Liz is on it.
I think it's a deaf thing. And I'm going to say that, and people are going to be a little confused about that. But ASL as a language is so expressive. It's so instinctively expressive. You have to learn how to move your face, to express yourself, to indicate different tones or sentence structure or whatever. And that's all just gut instinct, right? You're not thinking about it. And I think it's another deaf gain, right? That's such an important part of expression is how you interact with your body, and having a language where that's ingrained as a gut instinct is so helpful and just like such a benefit for expressing yourself for acting. And so I know so many deaf people who have no experience with acting, and they're just so expressive that they pick it up so quickly. So that's a deaf bing right there.
I love that you called that out. I think it's so worth talking about. I also think you can see in how the photos come out of this week, Lauren Ridloff and the actress that plays Echo, and they were together and they took some photos together, didn't they? And like they were hanging out. Like that was a cool moment also to be like, oh, are we going to get like a collab between Echo and the Eternals? And like, what would that look like to have these two baddies come together and like take it on together, like take on the world together, or like fight each other or do something in some capacity.
And both women of color. That's
absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah.
Love to see that.
Love to see that. And before we continue, I do want to say, Sly, thank you as always for sharing your nuance with us, because it's so appreciated, and everyone here values your thoughts so much, both in the representation of the deaf community and, as Alexis very rightfully said, your ability to call everything out as it is. You are so welcome on this platform, and we're so glad to have you.
Also, Sly is just becoming the Hawkeye expert. They're on like 4 different podcasts talking about Hawkeye.
plug, Bessie,
Yes.
plug it.
So this week on Monday, I was on Penultimate Conquest, their show called Marvel Mondays. You can see me talking about the episodes 1 and 2 for Hawkeye. And then also tomorrow night for Point in Progress on MC University, we're doing an extra credit episode. We're not doing a full podcast this week, so we're doing an extra credit talking about the first 3 episodes of Hawkeye. So I'm talking a lot about Hawkeye this week, but it's amazing. I'm so happy to have so many awesome friends who are inviting me for that conversation. It's been fun. So thank you for having me here.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Can I say another thing about Echo being a baddie?
Yeah.
Of course.
I love how they included her prosthetic, how they included like Cox's prosthetic in the fight choreography. When Clint, I think it's like a pipe, hits her leg with a pipe and he's like, what? I'm like, baddie.
Yeah,
so good. And the thing
I was so happy that they included that with the kid too.
Yes, that they didn't shy away from her
And that
having
actress,
a prosthetic.
I thought was incredible. Whoever that little girl
The
is.
baby?
Yes.
Yes.
It's like
It's
one of my
so
new favorite
cute.
people.
Yes.
12 out of 10, bring her back.
Yeah. I will watch just that show. I will watch just like Baby Echo going.
I hope they'll have Baby Echo in the Echo show.
Yes.
There's a whole Echo show.
Which JJ did say, Echo Show's gonna be fire, which
So
I agree.
good.
That might be our best after party series when we finally get a backstory about a strong
so
female
excited.
lead. Alexis, I did want to ask you about the point Marissa just raised about the way that they used the prosthetic in the choreography of that fight. What did you think of it from your lens of, well, we've already heard some of your ranting around martial arts, but that specifically.
That the fight was really cool to me because one of the things, I'll try to say this briefly, but like martial arts in America is a fascinating thing because it trends, right? And so like certain martial arts will be popular and then for really no discernible reason other than like Conor McGregor was hot once, other ones will become popular, okay? And so it becomes like this weird where like people then place, like people will say, oh, well, because this one is popular, it's more effective, where it's really not, right? Like the emphasis was just like Joe Rogan talked about it one time. So like now we do jujitsu, right? Is really how that works. Don't let people tell you otherwise. They're probably men and they're probably wrong. But what is cool about the fight in this, right, is that for a long time, even in Marvel, we moved to Muay Thai for women because Muay Thai is a martial arts form that focuses more on like your the way your body is moving to get the greater impact, right? So like the idea is that like where women may be lighter, may have less weight than men, like certain types of movement are going to be less effective for them, right? And so Muay Thai allows us to move in a way that's more effective, right? Muay Thai is also really boring to look at, like nobody cares, right? Ishinru is really pretty to look at. I may be biased, I may have trained in it since I was 5 years old, right? But it's really beautiful, and we never get to see it on screen because people say that like it's not effective. But it was really cool to me because that is actually what we see a lot in the fight that Echo has. And Ishinru is one of those styles that's like, how do I say this? It's really focused on like kind of like repetitive, snappy, pretty movement. And so I thought it was especially interesting that they did that movement with someone who has a prosthetic, because typically you think of that as being like less flexible, like less capable of movement. But she was able to use it in a way that she still did that really fast flutter kick, like she still did the butterfly kick. And so like all of this movement that we think is really like intricate and like pretty, she was also capable of using in like a really effectively violent way, which I mean, once she was out of that karate class, which was really cool. She's also bringing back the boxer braids, which has been a big controversy in martial arts for like the last 3 years. So I was just super excited to see that as well. I don't know if that answered your question, but there you go.
No,
That was great.
that was exactly what I wanted to hear. We're at the 1 hour mark of the show, which means things are about to get chaotic all over again as we enter our game segment of the show, which is what I think.
We have not had my framing rant yet.
Oh, I know. Don't worry. We have lots of rants that we wanted to cover in the first hour. So everyone's going to get a few minutes to give their final rant of the episode. We're going to start with Alexis because we do have a bunch of comic panels that you wanted to share with us from this week. And I'm currently trying to figure out what order you want me to put them up in. Is there a particular order that you would?
If you can, not really. If you can, I'm not like Sly. I don't label them. If you could just find one with a car, it would be good.
This?
Okay. Yes.
That one?
So what I find interesting about like, and this is one issue that we're talking about for most of this, right? But there's a line in the show where they look at the red, I believe it's a Charger. They look at the red Charger. They're like, no, we can't smash up that car. We have to drive another one. And so I thought it was really funny because Cherry in the Fraction comic is a character who suspiciously looks like Natasha Romanoff. We won't unpack that one. One of the hosts on this show may have written a Clinton Nat fic about this comic.
And you haven't shared it with me?
I'm not going to let anyone know who that is, but one of us may have done that.
I have to go back through
I need that.
I have to go back through our texts and find the 6 different AO3 names Alexis writes under.
Next week, Alexis will be doing a live reading.
God, no. But anyway, so I thought that was funny that like that car is actually used in this issue and they kind of like joke it off. The other thing that is really cool, if you want to find any other panel, and Victoria Organa actually did like a brilliant video about this. So if you want to find her on TikTok, she did a matchup of each trick arrow used in the comic against the trick arrow used in the show, right? And what Fraction is really trying to do here is consolidate Hawkeyes, right? So the earlier Hawkeye had arrows that we thought were really ridiculous, and so he's trying to like pull them back in this issue and make them like cool and modern. The through line of this issue, the big joke is also that Clint doesn't label them. So like Clint, who is shooting in this issue, not Kate, Clint is doing the shooting, was never aware of like which arrow he was firing. And then he kind of becomes the damsel in distress and Kate has to notch the final arrow, right? Is kind of how that ends up. But there's just a lot of trick arrows. The Pym particle arrow is not in the comic, and
we're going to talk about the Pym particle arrow in a segment, our next segment after we do our final rants. I'm going to quickly just show some of the other amazing panels that you had. And if you have any other thoughts around this that you want to share, feel free to do so.
Nope.
This is all just relating back to what you were saying, but it's
all
it's
relating.
showing.
Like cool arrows. I know the art is really pretty.
The art's really pretty.
It would be cool if Marvel paid him for that because it's like really neat.
Right? Do you want to just briefly again tell us which series. This is from If Folks Want to Go.
This is from Matt Fraction's Hawkeye series. It came out in like 2012, I believe. And the premise behind this was that it was introducing Kate and Clint really for the first time, right? It was trying to establish what their relationship was to each other because Kate had kind of become her own Hawkeye. It is a really good starting point for Hawkeye. So if you are interested in Hawkeye or you're interested in Kate, you can start with that one. It actually spins into one of Kate's solo books. So
Brilliant.
I highly 10 out of 10.
10 out of
Sometime
10.
we're gonna have to talk about both of the all new Hawkeye books because there's two, and they're both good, and nobody talks about them.
Free Fall is also very good. Like that Hawkeye.
I
one is
love
very
Free Fall.
Yeah.
That was
Liz
great.
and I are just like,
Hated Blind Spot.
Okay, we have 50 minutes left of the show. We gotta speed things along so we can get to our final game. Marissa, do you have, I know we're gonna get to Sly's rant, which I'm very excited for, so I'm gonna save your rant for last. Marissa, do you have any final rants that you would like to share about this week's episode?
yeah, I just wanted to say super quickly. So my best friend is part Native. She's Cherokee, and she has trained me to look at Native representation in media very closely. And so I'm just like trained to look for teepees everywhere now because it seems to be like the white person flag to be like, this person is indigenous. Look at a teepee. And there's in Maya's like childhood bedroom. I have some issues with the way it was set decorated, basically. There's like a garland that hangs behind her bed that is like a tree and like a bear and like a teepee in the middle. And it's just like weird pictures of it to my friend. And she was like, it's not like overtly offensive, but it's just not what it would look like. That's just like not what
Why
a
is it
Native
there?
child's bedroom would look like. And she was like, I wonder if they asked any Native people, like, because those are not like toys that, you know, Native kids grow up with. Just like, it was like very clearly like a white person designed this room, or at least a non-Native person. And so that was just a thing that I was like, because it's so wonderful that there's so much conversation around Maya's deafness and her disability and now her having a prosthetic, but she's also indigenous, and it's like one of the first indigenous characters in the MCU, and like that has to also be a part of the conversation. And so I'm just like cautiously aware of how that is being represented as well. So not all Native people have teepees even involved in their culture within their tribes. It's a closed practice. They don't live in them. Just like educate yourselves on teepees, basically.
And it's a great segue to the final point that I wanted to make from this episode, which is that obviously in this show, we have a lot of privilege, and we recognize the privilege that we have to come together and talk about Hawkeye this every week. And even within the nuance that we do have to discuss, there's still a lot of voices that we do not represent, or do we claim to represent on this screen. And I think it's really important to talk about the creators who are from communities that are feeling the impact of the representation the show is attempting to deliver or showcasing in any regard. And I wanted to shout out Amazing Nick, who posted some videos around how the refrigeration of Clint's past is being depicted, or the depiction that's being focused on in this series is Clint's refrigeration of people of color around the world and in New York, and
only
people of color.
And I would encourage everyone to watch Amazing Nick's videos about this. And there's other creators on TikTok that are also sharing nuance around this. And it's important, I think, to always elevate the voices of the community rather than speak for them or speak over them. So I'm not going to attempt to do the work and the labor that other folks are doing on this topic. But if we're going to be calling out the MCU for better representation, that is a point that has to be said. It's unfortunate in a show that is delivering needed nuance and progress, it's still so disappointing to see what's falling short and how detrimental those pieces are to be falling short once again in the MCU. So Marvel, please do better. And please direct your attention to creators like Nick. Voices of Atlas is a great podcast. I think they're live tonight too as well. Victoria Organa, who we mentioned earlier, is a co-host on that show, along with Marvelous Johnny and Mixed and Anxious on TikTok. The four of them co-host that show together. And they do great nuance surrounding Asian representation in the MCU. Asian umbrella term, all factions of Asians that are represented in the MCU. And I just find it really disappointing that in a show that was supposed to have some progress, some hope, it's still delivering such strictly disappointing nuance to it.
Yeah.
With that, that's my final rant. And I'll pass it over to Sly for the final rant before we move into our Pim Particle game.
Well, let's talk about framing. I am so disappointed with how this episode specifically approached framing. And if you don't know what I'm talking about how you set up a camera to focus on a specific part of a person or the set or whatever. That's what I'm referring to as framing. Hearing directors are going to be my end with this specifically because they don't know how to frame sign. And I'm saying that as a general term. Just sign expression, doesn't matter the language. They don't know how to frame it. And you see that so clearly here. There was a full conversation between two people who were signing that you could not see a single sign that was being shown or expressed. And I'm trying really hard not to say words that are not allowed here.
I appreciate that. I'll let you know.
But you have a conversation with two people who are expressing themselves with a specific language, and you are not showing that language at all. You can't see it. And that is just so frustrating that you're only showing reactions or so close up that you're getting facial expressions but not the actual production of the signs. You can see I'm using my face, not great grammar because I'm simcomming, which is fine because that gives more access for you hearing people, but I'm using my face and my hands. You need both of them. If I was to just sign like this, you can't understand what I'm saying. You get a little bit because you can see my face. The same goes if I'm signing like this. You can't understand what I'm saying because my sentence structure has no meaning because my face is doing nothing. You need both. And this whole conversation was giving you nothing. Zero.
It gave
Nada. Nothing. And that's just so frustrating because you're trying to showcase this actor and their skill and their expression, and you're not showing their language. How does that make sense? There's no common sense here. None. It's so frustrating that hearing people are just so focused on the face, and that's it. And you're not getting a full frame. When you set up a camera for anything with sign, you have to make sure it's, a little bit of headspace to around the chest or belly button, right? You can't just cut it off. It doesn't work. And everybody knows that who has even the little bit exposure to sign, any language, even just a little bit of exposure, you know that you need a full picture.
And
Why
can I
do
just say
directors
something
not-
briefly? If we can have 4 of us on screen on this software that we use that costs less than $100 a month, and we can make it work, and Marvel's got the budget that they have, and split screening is very clearly possible. What was the excuse? What was the
Also,
reason?
it was so close. It was so
You can't
close.
say that that's an artistic choice. You can't, because if that's the choice, you're making bad choices. Like, it's not a good look, right? You're saying it doesn't matter what they're saying here. That whole editing said it doesn't matter what they're saying. That conversation's not important.
Mhm.
Why are you going to add it in then?
And we talked about in the What If series, Alexis and I raised this point like literally every episode, that you could see that if you don't have representation in every stage of the process, in every room that a decision's being made, that's where you see slips in the cracks, right? Like if you're going to have, I'll take our examples from What If, right? If you're going to have an episode that's supposed to be focused on a woman and you're going to have so much internalized misogyny in that character, you're going to have explicit misogyny for the sake of plot progression, but then you also don't take the time to understand that you're writing other characters with misogynistic traits that are not being realized because you don't have enough checkpoints to ensure that representation is being done correctly and full. You're going to end up with a Pick Me Steve Rogers in the Captain Carter episode, who was so misogynistic to me, and it was so disappointing to see. And I feel like it's similar in this. It's like, at how many stages of the process do you have people who understand what the best case representation looks like to ensure in your post, in your camera ops, in your directing advisory, in your producer credits, like all the way through to the top folks that watch the episodes before they're approved to go on Disney Plus. If you don't have representation throughout every stage, eventually that's how you get something like a conversation between 2 people signing an ASL where the cameras are this close to their face. We didn't even get that close to Bucky and Sam in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We barely got that close to Loki and Sylvie.
No reason to be that close except you want to show the expressions on their face. Yes, it's important to have an extreme close-up. There's a time and a place to use that. Here is not the time and not the place.
I'm really liking a solution that's come up in the comments on both Twitch and YouTube, so I want to bring it up. Ron is twitching saying, split screening like comic book panels? Genius. Like, come on. Look how many examples we have.
You just need a wider frame, editing technique, and good camera setup. That's it. You can cut back and forth. You just need to pull back a little bit with your camera and better editing so the person talking is the person you see. It's the director of photography and the editor who have no idea what they're doing here.
I will
hire
say
deaf people, please.
Yes,
just
hire deaf people. Period.
You just need a wider frame and for the camera to be on the person speaking. It's literally so simple.
I will say though, to the people that are commenting about the split screening like comic book panels thing, that is something that if Marvel had chosen to lean into, I think would have been an interesting artistic choice for the show. We are introducing so many characters directly from the comic books. Like imagine when they introduced the Tracksuit Mafia, if each of those guys had like a whoosh, 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 whoosh thing across the screen, right? Like they could have done some really cool artistic work to make a choice like that present throughout all of Hawkeye, and then it wouldn't have seemed like a choice just made in that specific conversation, right? So
It's funny
Marvel,
that
this
you
is our
say
pitch
that.
to you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's funny that you say that because my mom is watching this show without me, right? Which has been fascinating.
Shout out Alexis's mom.
Shout out to my mom, who is adorable, right? But it's funny because she's watched like Falcon and Winter Soldier, she watched Loki, right? Like blah blah blah. And this is the show that she said that she felt like it was so tied to the comics that she was confused. Like that there were moments like with the tracksuit mafia where she was like, "Why are they here in tracksuit?" She was like, "That doesn't make sense unless you know that like that's a thing, right?" Or to
Right
her,
on.
it didn't. She's like, "I don't understand." So like, especially as a show that is pooling really like making these direct parallels and like using the art and like I'm not even sure some of the like I think some of the Kate like if you take out the comic comparison and contrast with Kate, I think the representation is even worse, right? Like I think the impact of that comes from knowing that it was given to Clint in the comics and like now it's being given to Kate. Anyway, my thought was that the framing would be cool. And I feel like so part of our issue, Liz, like part of our issue with the other shows has been that like Marvel is acting like this is new and it's not really new, right? And like I think back to shows like The West Wing, and I swear to God, I always saw Marlene Matlin's face in her hands. Like I think this was a thing. Like I
Yeah.
don't think
It's a
that
great example.
right. Like I other shows have done it, so I don't know why this was such a like.
Yeah, West Wing actually specifically is a great example of that. And that show, I just watched it like a few months ago. It was great. But that, is a great example of framing because Marley Matlin's hands are always fully visible when she's supposed to be like, sometimes it's like directing to another person and you have her interpreter talking or whatever. But most of the time it's focused on her. And that's a great example of what they can do, but they didn't do here.
Marvel, hire deaf people.
I mean, I will be honest, as a hearing person with just the bare minimum knowledge of ASL, I was taken out of the episode because I was so frustrated that they weren't showing anyone's hands or that the camera was on the person reacting rather than the person talking. Like, I was so frustrated watching it. And I don't even speak ASL, but I was just like, this is not helpful to anyone. I was so upset.
Yeah.
Because you can't rely on voices to know who's talking. You're forced to rely on the captions, which is how we experience life, right? So hearing people have that perspective shift where you don't know who's talking based on the voice and not showing who's talking, it's not helpful.
I have a transition sentence. If we all rewind a few minutes.
Okay.
To when Alexis said something about how there's so many moments in this show that aren't significant to you if you don't have the comics history. Like, drum roll, the pin particle arrows! Yeah, I want to spend the last half hour of the show after this wonderful discourse that we've had. This, as always, discourse that makes me think, discourse that makes me feel, discourse that makes me feel hopeful that the future of the MCU can be better because there's people that are willing to share and ask for more and ask for better. Let's now take it down.
Captions do not understand discourse. I'm sorry. It's a different word every time.
Is it my accent? Is it my Canadian accent coming out? I've heard that from people before. I don't know how to say it in a way that will be any more helpful, but I'll use a different word. After this wonderful conversation, I'd like to take it down like 25 notches and play a game about this. So in this episode, we saw that PIM technology exists and Clint has it in these arrows that can kind of blow up. I assume they could also get smaller. They can do as the PIM designed. And it's really open for interpretation here that if Clint Barton got his hands on a Pym arrow, what other Avengers received such items from the Pym technology? So I'd like to introduce a segment called the Impimcations of Pym particles. You know, like implications.
Yeah, we got it, Liz.
Yeah, we got it.
I really want people to be proud of this.
I am super proud
I'm
of
proud of you.
Thank you.
I love
I'm a
it so
triple
much.
fire sign that craves validation, and I feel like I have it. So let's play a game. I want to talk about some Avengers, some of our fan favorites in the MCU, and what Pym items we think should be, should not be, could be designed for them. And I want everybody watching to throw in the comments what they are thinking as well.
Just thought of something.
Okay, I'm gonna go first because I'm dying to share my idea, and then we're gonna go around. Everyone's gonna pick an Avenger and explain your thought for them. So mine is Bucky, obviously. My first thought when I saw this thing, and I swear to God, my first thought when I saw that Clint had this was, oh my God, that means more Avengers have these. And my mind immediately went to Bucky must have a Pym arm. Like his arm must be able to just like just go for miles and knock people out, or shrink if that's more advantageous. Maybe he's got to like get into a tiny little crevice and he could like shrink his arm and like stick it in there. I don't know. That's my thought.
Oh God.
So that's where I'm going with this prompt. Comments?
There's so many thoughts about how he would use that arm.
And we're not going to get into all of it.
I don't want to read the fanfic after Liz talking about his arm.
I'm so obsessed with this whole thing. I want to know why and how and where he got them. Like, because Hank Pym worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. for a long time, and then he quit and he walked out and he took his Pym particles with him. So he didn't get the arrows from S.H.I.E.L.D., but like, did he get them from Scott? Do like Clint and Scott have like an Avengers dad group? Like, yes,
I was like, Scott sitting around talking about what great fathers they are, passing around arrows.
Yeah, and Scott's like, hey, my girlfriend's dad made you this arrow that like gets giant. I also just like, blue is big, red is small. Pym particles, just for everyone.
Thank you for that
Because you can
nuance.
tell on the arrow it's blue, and so that's how you know it's big.
Okay, I didn't catch that, so I am actually glad that
It's
you.
the discs. The discs are different colors, and the red discs are shrinking, and the blue discs are growing.
I'm loving.
I
some
like
of the-
Ant-Man.
It's
We have
a
an Ant-Man
great
fan.
movie.
You're allowed to stand, Scott. I'm actually obsessed with like what's coming in the comments right now. Shelby's saying Elena using Pym Tech to make the pockets on her vest bigger and smaller. Brilliant.
I love that.
This is so good.
Okay, so speaking of clothing, my first thought was give Banner some clothes that change size with him. Please.
At one point,
Practical answer.
he had like
love-
stretchy pants, didn't he? I feel like there was
Yeah.
like one movie where he had stretchy pants.
But at least I guess I'm thinking about the game, but it'll like cut to like shorts.
Mhm.
But I just
Agreement
him some
coming in
clothes,
about
please.
let's please get Dr. Banner some nice fashionable clothes that he can actually keep for more than a day. That'd be
You s-
nice.
You saying that made me think about Bucky, and this is a debate. This is an internal debate that I have often. Is his jacket in Falcon and the Winter Soldier? And like, I've asked, is it nanotech? And like, maybe it's a Pym jacket that he just like shrinks and keeps in his pocket, and then he takes it out when he has to go into combat. Because I am still so unclear where it comes from.
I need everybody watching to understand that Marissa brings this up any
Once a
possible
week.
window.
It's
she
a
has.
good
We
point.
talk about this
Where
all
did it
the time.
go?
It's so true.
He walks on the plane carrying nothing. He's on the plane wearing a totally different outfit.
Well,
That's
and
all
you
I'm
also-
saying.
You also get stuck on who created that one. Like, that's another
Yeah.
of your big, like, who created that one? Who were they involved with that gave him that jacket?
When did he decide that like that was his uniform now? Because he wears
that
it
was
the
his
rest
look.
of the show.
Because he's a diva. He's a drama queen.
It's true.
Sorry.
It's so true. We don't apologize for our rant on Stark Radio. Another comment coming in: Sam should be able to shrink his wings for concealment.
Yeah.
That would, yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I also think like Red Wing. If Red Wing had PIM technology, that could be cool.
And Red Wing with like the ability to like drop it on people. So like a
Yep.
field of like enemies and just
Yep,
I
that would do
think
it.
that Alpine
We did it!
needs
did
a PIM particle collar that allows her to get bigger and smaller and get into places that she needs to get in to help others. And then if Red Wing gets really big, Alpine can also get really big and they can fight crime together.
And they can get their Infinity comic.
Yes.
I
The
need an
animated
Alpine
adventures of
and a
Alpine. I don't know how
Red
this
Wing.
hasn't happened yet.
Of Alpine, I usually do, but I had to delete it in the grave deletion of everything on our streaming platform last week when the whole platform stopped working before we started the show.
But
I
we
used
made a new friend.
Yeah.
What is upsetting to
made a
me
good
is in the
friend.
official Pet Avengers comic, like Alpine is actually not there. Like that's not a thing. So I need a new like Alpine in the Pet Avengers where Alpine is the title star, like she deserves, and is
So-
leading the Pet Avengers into battle.
We need Marvel to let you write a comic. If
Is she ready?
you have the ability to write a comic that includes Alpine, it solves all starting right now.
Starting right now, I already have 12. Nobody-
Marvel, she's ready. She's ready to be pitched to. Okay. Any other Alpine notes that we'd like to make before I take down your Alpine rant banner?
Justice for Alpine. Alpine would understand good framing. That's all.
Yes. I would say
Alpine would be
give
moving
it-
the camera around with her head. Like, what are you idiots doing?
I want Alexis and Nanetti Okorafor to write an Alpine comic together. That is my life goal. I need to see that. Please and thank you.
If normal guy on YouTube, Marissa, Sly, and Liz all pre-order 100 copies, that's 400 pre-orders already. That Marvel, this seems like a good
Marvel.
opportunity for you.
Get out the checkbook. Let's go.
I'm liking this comment from JJ. Croc Loki gets PIM particles. That seems so chaotic.
No.
I need to see it.
No,
Why no?
I don't like Crocodile Loki. I don't like
I keep
Alligator
thinking of,
Loki.
you know that sound that they made after Alligator Loki where it was like, Alligator,
Alligator
Loki?
Loki.
Oh, now all I can think of is like, Alligator Loki, big! Alligator Loki, small.
I think when you said this, when you gave this prompt, Liz, I thought, I don't think it's practical, but I thought like Natasha's widow bites would have like, I don't know, like they wouldn't like get bigger. They would just like get stronger. I don't know.
It would be nice if they had variants. Like if you could go from like, I need to make this remote work to like, I need to kill this person. Like it would be
Yeah.
nice to like have zap variety.
I don't know.
Yep.
That's what I thought of.
Now, there were a lot of trick arrows this episode. Like many trick arrows. And as you said earlier, Victoria did an amazing video. Victoria Organa that shows comic to show arrows that were used. But I would like to know if each of you had to add an arrow to Clint's satchel that had a special
His
power.
quiver.
Quiver.
What
Did you
would
say
the arrow
satchel?
do?
Well,
It is
love
midnight
you.
for me. I am so tired trying to
You
end this
chose
show.
this. You
I-
chose this.
I'm doing
I
my
just
said-
appreciate that satchel came to you first because I had to think about what a satchel was.
But let's just be clear. Liz said we could do the show later.
I chose my fate.
Mm-hmm.
I chose my fate tonight. It's clearly I'm doing fine. The last time I was up this late was for the Red release party, and we all know how chaotic that became.
Some of us are still crying.
Okay, I want to discuss if you had to add an arrow with a trick arrow, what would it be? My trick arrow would be like Clint would release it, and it would like remind him to be a good dad. Maybe it would like travel, like what's his name? Yanu, is that his name in Guardians of the Galaxy? That's got the whistling. Like maybe it's like that kind of situation, and like goes wherever his kids are. Is like, I love you, and like disappears.
Come home for Christmas. It's possible. You can do it. You're making these choices.
Yeah,
Boomerang arrow.
boomerang arrow is what JJ suggesting. A boxing glove arrow that would be kind of cool. Yeah,
That's an arrow, is it not? Am I wrong about that? I keep confusing because I'm also a Green Arrow stan. I know I'm a problematic human being. My cats are named after Green Arrow characters, but I thought the boxing glove arrow was a Green Arrow. I keep confusing my arrows.
it is apparently.
I know
Yeah.
it is for
Yes.
DC. I don't know Marvel enough to say yes or no.
I am vindicated.
So, what other arrows would y'all add to his arsenal?
I have two.
Yeah, let's hear it.
The first one that I thought of, I guess I've just got like Ant-Man on the brain. But I was thinking about in Civil War when he throws the tiny truck and it ends up being a gas truck and not a water truck.
Mhm.
I don't know. I thought of a water arrow. I don't know that that's really practical, but like you shoot it and then like it's like a fire hydrant of water. I don't know. And then I want a glitter arrow.
Great.
Just like
Yes!
confetti. Just like
Please.
just for fun.
A glitter arrow.
I need
Like
that.
a glitter
Martin
bomb.
Pride 2022 glitter arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a real curse. You'll never get rid of that glitter.
it's true.
Can't you just picture the tracksuit mafia, but covered in glitter? Like I would watch a series of them trying various like detergents,
Every
trying to
day.
get all the glitter out of their tracksuits. I would watch that.
And like taking duct tape to the beard. Because for anyone ever that needs to remove glitter from something, duct tape works pretty well. Or like painter's
Pro tips.
tape. Yeah.
Pro tips. Sly, what arrows would you add?
Oh my gosh. I really like the idea of different like decoration things. So, I'm thinking like sprinkles.
Oh,
Mhm.
Because then if you
Oh, that-
also use the water, then it'd make a mess. So there's that. I'm just thinking what could be like really annoying,
Mhm.
but not like completely damaging. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I want to rebrand the putty arrow. I think they call it a putty arrow in the comics, and it like
and a
Kate calls it
Play-Doh.
Play-Doh in this show. It should be called slime. That's slime.
I was
I
like,
would
that is
also
not
like to
Play-Doh.
add a silly string.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
yeah. Alexis, do you have any Arrow?
Okay, first, I want to start this by there's a comment that was left by one of our friends, talking about us all falling in love with Stephen Amell's Green Arrow, and like, yes, yes, that's a thing that happened in my life. However, I want to say, I really fell in love with Katie Lotz's Sarah Lance, and that is really what that show is to me. And also Nisa Al Ghul.
Also,
like there
very
were a
hot.
lot of things I would do for Katrina Law. There are a lot of things I would do for that woman. I want an Arrow that calls people that could help Clint to the scene, namely Alpine. So I want an Arrow
It's like a bat signal.
like a bat signal, but for
but
Alpine.
for Alpine.
So Alpine can come.
A
save
dog
the day.
whistle also.
Yes. I feel like
a
that would be
literal
helpful.
whistle for a literal dog.
Yeah. That. Thank you for clarifying.
And maybe also, since like Kate's lock picking skills seem to like the rest of her learning ability be inconsistent, I think an Arrow that could pick locks would be extremely helpful.
That, yeah.
But more importantly, the Alpine one. Alpine can just show up with lock picks and Google. I think that may be equally as helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Clint needs an Arrow that could help Peter Parker. So like when Peter Parker's like slinging webs, Clint could be like, and like also sling webs for him, you know?
Oh, that's a
like
good
the
one.
assist.
Be his buddy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I made a tweet that I need you all to
Infamous
please
last
share.
word.
Very, very honest.
Okay, great. Let me navigate myself to twitter.com.
Twitter.com.
If you're on YouTube, I just shared it in the chat. But
Okay, my thread is loading. Okay.
Wait, I'm not seeing the link to this tweet. Send it to me so I
Oh,
can pull
that's
it up.
beautiful.
Can someone just share it with me?
We're
I'm
getting
an
we're
elder
getting
millennial.
there.
I
Tag.
can't
Yeah,
work
you're fine.
Twitter.
You're
I
not an elder millennial. We got into a fight about this.
Tell me, hold
Alexis is on the
folks.
young side of millennials.
It's true.
Listen, I just really want to be Anna Tindler.
It says.
fair.
Obviously.
All right, everyone needs to go find this tweet on Twitter and hype it up so we can all the Stark Radio pressure goes on this tweet to help Marvel see that we need Alexis to write a
Thanks.
comic.
You're welcome.
Thanks, bestie.
I will be retweeting after the show. So, okay, I feel like we've really covered our bases here. We've gone through the Arrows. We've gone through the important conversations that had to be had. We've ranted our hearts out. In the last few minutes, I think, we do talk about Rogers the Musical every single week. And I feel like we must have a brief mention of it before we close. We've had a week to sit on Rogers the Musical. We've, looked at it from every possible angle. We did a deep dive dissection of the lyrics last week. And we've seen discourse on Twitter, on TikTok, across the internet about the song Save the City, about the inclusion of Rogers the Musical. I would like to know how we're all feeling 1 week into Rogers the Musical existing. And just, how are we feeling about it now that it's out there? It feels like we won't be revisiting it. How are we doing with this?
I'm feeling very vindicated and I'm ready to let it rest.
Oh, I'm not ready to let it.
Okay, great. Great.
Let's elaborate on that. Why aren't you ready to let it rest?
As always, what was that? I don't know. Sorry. As always, I want more than Marvel has given me. And I would have watched a show about Rogers the Musical. I really
Mhm.
would have, right? And I think you all, after I had to leave last week, I think you all talked a little bit about like better commentaries on musical theater, and like I think that would have been a cool avenue for that. But I really wanted a scene where Hawkeye had to run across the stage fighting bad guys and got caught in the show. And
I
I
really wanted that opera moment where they're just running through and things are just happening. I'm right there with you.
It might still happen. The show is still running. Like Rogers the Musical did not close.
We could be circling back.
They might find themselves in Midtown.
If
We
they
don't know.
If they really want to do Broadway commentary, there will be an encore.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Well, and
Mhm.
I would have loved the like. So my vindication was this was written by one of the men involved in Smash. That was my vindication to this, right? But I really wanted I want the web series that is the different women auditioning for Natasha Romanoff, right? And like one taking it like the Americans route and one taking it like the route that we saw, right? And like
Yep.
how that plays out.
Alexis wants the Search for Elle Natasha Romanoff
Natasha Romanoff.
edition.
Two.
That should be a
Speaking
TikTok
of
series.
Legally Blonde, I think that everybody knows this, but that there is a school that is doing an entirely Asian version of Legally Blonde
Harvard.
musical. It's Harvard, and it's so cool. So if you're not following along with that and supporting them, go do that.
Love
Very
that.
cool.
Now feels like a good time for some final plugs. Everyone want to plug what you're working on, where people can find you on the internet next week? Anything you want to share? Sly, we'll start with you since you're like the mega celebrity of Hawkeye right now.
Yes.
You got the longest list. Let it rip. Where can people listen to
Yeah.
you pop off?
So, as I mentioned, I'm on 2 other Hawkeye related shows this week. So, check those out. You can also find me everywhere on the internet at SlyCloneMC and everywhere at Point in Progress. So, those are the 2 places. Please go check out. If you're here from Point in Progress, please follow all of these amazing people. And if you go check out Point in Progress, please let me know you're from here because we love that. But yeah, and then go watch tomorrow MC University extra credits for
Yes.
Hawkeye. That'll be great.
We will be watching. It's a great show, MC University. It's so fun.
It is.
Alexis, do you want to plug?
Sure. I am Alexis. I'm bad at this. I'm at Alexis Blake Reads Comics on TikTok, and you can find my links to everything there. My Instagram has become much more about my life, so if you're interested in like my daily life, you can follow me there. And then I talk about comics and stuff on TikTok, and occasionally I do an okay job.
You always do a great job.
You
Let's
do
be
a great
clear.
job.
Quiet.
I'm terrible at Twitter, right? So if you want to just watch a train wreck, it's my Twitter where I just tweet portions of conversations that not everyone's a part of. I'm a mess, but
Her
come along.
Twitter is
for
not that bad. You're very good. You're very regular.
This is the Hot Mess Express. You can jump on and follow me in all those places. All right.
Well, what's your bio? It's like nerd first, human second.
Yeah.
Hot express.
Hot
Mess
Mess Express.
Hot Mess-
Yeah. That's how it's yeah.
Marissa?
I'm Marissa at Miss Abobissa everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of the places. I talk about all kinds of stuff. Pop culture, theater, Marvel, Disney, wigs.
She's the queen
True.
of Twitter.
I like Twitter.
She's
It's
the queen
true.
of Twitter.
Twitter
Marissa's really got
side.
a Twitter. Yeah. Love.
Sometimes I just I feel like I can express myself better through text than through my voice. And then sometimes I'm like, this really is better delivered out loud, but then I'm like, oh, it's not going to do well on TikTok. And then it just sits in my brain.
That's for close friends Instagram. We'll leave that
It is.
conversation for another time.
It really is.
And I'm producer Liz. You can find me, producer Liz, on TikTok and Instagram. We announce this show when the show is happening on Instagram, and it's always in my TikTok bio. So there's always an event live. It is this show. You can subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. We're kind of changing days of the week every week because it's a holiday season and everyone's busy. So make sure you're following on Instagram and you check out my TikTok bio so you know when we're live next. But we'll see you all next week for Hawkeye episode 4, and invite friends to come watch along. We're so grateful to have all of you join us every week. We see you watching live. We see you people who come back and rewatch throughout the week and who watch late and add your comments later. We're so glad you're here enjoying season 4 of Stark Radio and the Hawkeye After Party. Thank you to everybody watching on TikTok. We'll say goodnight to you first since there's a delay on this feed and we don't want anyone to get cut off. That'd be rude. So goodnight, TikTok.
Thanks for joining.
And we'll say goodnight to everyone on YouTube and Twitch who's been watching. JJ, Normal Guy, L Parker 2524, Danny, Shelby, everyone that's been hanging out with us, Riley. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight. And we hope you come back next week and celebrate episode 4 of Hawkeye and all the chaos that goes along with it. Maybe shall we redo our rant game next week?
I hope I have something to say.
That was fun.
I liked the
I hope you. What do you mean you hope you have
It was
something to
chaos.
say? It
I
was
was
chaos.
really stressed.
We'll work on it. We'll workshop it for next week, but we'll see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in and have a great week. Bye.
See you later.